So welcome back to Lily's Bonsai, hope you're well. I've got another one of my little brother's bonsai trees today. I'm going to kind of whiz through it quickly. It's another one on my list of things to do. I'm kind of a bit behind this year, but it's in urgent need of a repot. The pot's kind of given way to the frost this year. This is a Podocarpus, or a Buddhist pine. This is a garden centre bonsai. He's probably had it for 6 odd years now, or maybe a couple more, 6 to 8 years we'd say. Probably was half the thickness, you know, when he got it. You know, really, you see these commonly as kind of commercial bonsais in garden centres, you know, things like that, as a kind of novice or, you know, a beginner's tree. It's evergreen, seems to tolerate quite a bit of cold, hasn't done too badly. He hasn't really done much to it. This one he does let me cut the occasional bit off of it. It's a little bit more free with this one. There's a branch at the bottom here that has snapped off, and I think my middle brother has done a kind of engineering job on it for him. But I think it's changed colour and there was no, you know, cut paste or anything put around it, and it wasn't the best joined back by the look of it. It's a bit tough, this stuff, quite woody. So I think that's going to have to come off really. I think it was wishful thinking by him. So we might have to have a look at, you know, what we're gonna do about that down there, and really just reduce a few branches, I think, for him. Some of these now are getting a little bit thick up here. We'll struggle to do much about that, but just kind of looking at the tree, this is an obvious front. It's actually, the movement's nice. It comes back towards you at the top there. The branches are quite nicely spaced out as well, and you know, you can see quite a lot of trunk going up, although I think it wants shortening. But we won't push our luck with it, like the golden larch in the previous video, which had freed up the pot for him, because this is budget bonsai, as it were. He doesn't like, or you know, spending much on these, so we're trying to help him out here. So if I just spin the tree round as well, you can see here why this obviously is going to be the back. There's not as much trunk line. Obviously we're going to lose this branch shortly, that's going to be coming off, and you can kind of see there the colour difference there in the healthy glossy dark green to this kind of yellowing now. The leaves are obviously, needles pulling away easy as well, so that's done for that branch. But yeah, not as nice as the other side, and it's quite an easy obvious decision. There's a really quite a chunky branch here, which maybe was a top one time of day, and we bent that over for him, got another leader, but again now they've just thickened up. That could potentially be a nice leader, although since we've pruned it back last summer, he's got a lot of back buds as well. So quite a friendly species to work on really, actually, although not much has been done to it. In between when things have been done to it, it's responded well. And it looks like it's just kind of in compost, to be fair. So it kind of goes against all the rules, this one, and it's doing well again. So the 2 trees I've showed you of his that have been kind of had nothing really major done to them, no repots or anything, sitting in compost, and they've absolutely thrived, even with our kind of British winters that we've had the last few years. So I think the first thing we'll do with this before we take it out of the pot and kind of lose the stability we've got right now, we'll just cut the bad branch off. I'm going to just lose some weight off of it, although we're going to cut it back further than this. I'm just going to take, quite drastic, you won't be too pleased about that, but the damage was done. I think it fell over as well, which had caused that break as well. I hadn't explained that. But yeah, we took some weight off it there, so now when we cut that, repair that, whatever brother's done, which is fair enough, we're not going to tear the bark and go any further, because I'm sure he wants that just to clean up and go away. I don't think it's tore it too far. Most of the rip is done as such. Let's just see if we can clean that. Yeah, I don't think we'll do much more to that really. It's quite recessed already from where it's tore away. That's just flaky bark, so I think that'll look quite natural as it heals up, to be fair, the way it's got a tear in there. So I think he's got lucky there really, other than losing a big branch. But when we look at this as well, it's not brilliant. Maybe that bottom bit could have been cut. I don't know what angle it was sitting on there, and you concentrated on that. I think that had gone a bit skew-if, and this stuff doesn't really bend the best. You see it tearing there straight away. I know it's dried out a bit, but I think it does seem to have a bit of a brittle tendency. I wouldn't push it too far. So yeah, now we've lost that, we kind of have to look at what we've got there. So that's the back, as it were. Let's see what our chosen front now looks like again. So I'm going to reduce these a little bit. So we kind of have a first branch on the outside here, whether he loses this one at some point and maybe goes for these. They're both on the outside of the bend, so I guess they're both usable. Again, he doesn't like doing drastic things to these trees, so even when I try and explain kind of how I'm seeing it, but that's fair enough, they are his. This one's on the inside of the bend, so I'd like to cut that off really. And then maybe you'd have to use this one then as maybe a bit of a second branch. But like I say, this thing does backbud quite well, so I wouldn't get too concerned about not having branches. And they don't seem to take too long to thicken up if you grow one out. So again, you could catch it up quite quickly under there if you really wanted to start trying to perfect it a little bit and get it, you know, back into some sort of scale. The other thing I'll do again, like I say, before we do any repotting or taking it out of the pot, there's quite a bit of copper wire from before I obviously invested in aluminium wire, which I always got the job done still with. There's the occasional thing like I damaged the bark on, I was a bit annoyed, but you could, you know, I made do with it and it works. So we'll just get these off. There's one piece. So like I say, we've still got nice stability in that pot at the moment. Right, so we've got a bit of protection on the table, as it were. So we'll see if we can get this one out of the pot. You see the frost has absolutely blown it to bits. I don't think there's no saving this one, so yeah, we can just break it. That's great. I did cut some wire earlier from the top. Yeah, there we go. So you see there, got a nice slug there as well. No mycelium on this one, but loads of little balls which look like something to do with the roots, some little nodules. Looks to be just really composty, kind of loamy stuff again. So really, let's just offer it up to this other pot. Now I really don't want to just slip pot this if we can avoid it. So let's see. So it does kind of sit in there. It's a little bit bigger anyway because it's not got that kind of that detail of the other pot there. So if we can reduce that, you know, by maybe like 10 mil all the way around, so we can just get a fresh bit of compost in there. I think that'll do for this year, and then maybe next year I'll make him another pot if I get time. So let's give this a go then. See if we can reduce this down a little bit. I'm just going to scrape a little bit of this muck off here as well, because it's got that kind of weird algae. I need to find the name of that thing. It's quite unsightly, isn't it? That algae stuff. I don't mind the moss. It just seems to get a bit invasive, that, if left alone. You see there, like I say, it's more really like a composty loam. A million miles away from bonsai soil. We can just tease some of this bag. It might be a bit of a squeeze, and it's not really ideal. I guess it probably would like to go up a pot size, but like I say, he's a young lad saving up. He doesn't really want to be spending silly money on bonsai pots, although he likes the hobby and he appreciates the trees, shall I say. He's not really one for doing it. But he has looked after these for a long while, and I've given that, you know, how many of these trees get sold, dry out and just die. He's kept them in good nick, he's always concerned about that. This here, I'm just going to get rid of a load of that. Look at all those roots. gently tease this off. It's quite easy when it's really spiralling around under there. Just I think that's a new root as well. Doesn't look the healthiest. Something crossing over there as well. Take that out. That's just mud. I think he's kind of top dressed this up with actually. It isn't as mounded as I thought it was. Let's just see how we're looking on that pot now. So definitely got the depth. We just need to give ourselves a little bit more room on the sides. We're not far off now though, as far as I want to go with this for him. Most of these seem to be coming to an end, so that's good. Just where this is really thick, I'm going to kind of just loosen it up and then encourage some more newer roots out of it. It's just going round and round still in there. A little brush, but I think we'll have to dampen that moss down just to get it to move, as it were. Let's have a look with that brush there as well. Does look like some nice roots hiding there. Some quite decent roots hiding in there. There we go, so you can see it had put out quite a few new roots there. But it is forming quite nicely there, even though some of these are quite chunky, but there's another one there just crossing over, so while we're here we'll take that out there. Right, so I don't say that's probably as much as I want to push off that, but we've got so much fine root there. Anything that's kind of double back on itself and it's been cut will hopefully die away and not cause us no problem over summer. And then when we come back to this next time, it might be a little bit less complicated, but I think we'll get a better pot for it next time, a slightly bigger pot, so we won't have that hassle. Let's just offer that up again now. Yeah, so I'm confident we fit my fingers between it. So it's a bit better than just a slip pot. There's a chunky root there that I can't do nothing about, but everywhere else we got a roughly 10mm gap there, and we can get something underneath it as well. All we've got to do now is kind of select the best planting angle. And I think with how the berry works over there, I think if we tip it back slightly more than it was last time, we can use those nice roots. And then the ones at the back might get a bit more of a chance because they'll actually have a bit of depth again in the soil. Right, so I've used a bit of that plastering mesh and a 1mm aluminium wire just to tie off, and I've used 2 bits that way and then tied them off once, so we can then pop this in that way round because there's no other holes in there for wiring. So I think that's a good way of getting around the problem there. Like I say, same mix as we used on his golden larch. So there is some compost in there, some perlite, a large grain sand, and some bark chip. I've not put any gravel in there. I'm trying to come away a bit from the gravel because it doesn't really have any real benefit, does it, to the plant, and it's quite cold, I think. So I'm trying to evolve a little bit there. Let's just check the height of that. So height wise we're pretty good there. We got that spot on first time around. We'll just sprinkle a bit more of that round. I'm just going to come round to the front and have a look there. So I think a slight twist now. I think we'll go with that there. Pop some soil up against that edge before I bring it in, because I actually want to twist this in the pot a little bit. I don't want any edges without any fresh soil on them, so even if you have to fight that back a little bit, I'd rather some fresh stuff in there. There we go. I'm going to try and go under that root, because I'd rather not cut into it over time. And seeing how that's the front, let's actually go under that root that way. And working backwards. I'm going to bring that over there. And now let's just tie that off lightly for a second. And let's just look for a good root then for this one. Again, I'd rather go under a few of these roots. Quite a nice little root there. This does seem to put a lot more roots out by the base though, so that's kind of good to know. Maybe not as awkward as a pine or something. There we go. That shouldn't do no harm to those other roots. Put a few handfuls on there to start working in. Fill it from that. Like I say, we'll have a little prune of it in a minute. A couple of bits of wire on there. See if we can get it past him. See if he watches the video in the entirety. He was quite happy with his golden larch, and then a few minutes after that he did say, "Have you cut anything off of it?" And said there's a few little bits. I did prune a little bit off it in the end, if I'm honest. I didn't want to video it and take the mick completely. So that there now is starting to feel like there's some good resistance. And hopefully we've got some of them grains in between those finer roots. Yeah, there is some compost in this mix, but as you can see, these last two plants I showed you of his that are in quite a composty mix have absolutely thrived. He does pop them in the greenhouse over winter, which has been testament to the trees really. You know, he's had no problems with them. And it's an unheated cold greenhouse, so it's only keeping the worst of the wet weather off them really. They still freeze in there. There we go. So I haven't got the gravel with me, but I would probably put some more gravel over that. He's got some kind of nice roots going on there now as well. And like I say, we'll make him a slightly bigger pot next year for that, I think. But the only reason I'll top dress it with gravel is just to hold some of this perlite down, because it will have a tendency to float up, and you can see it's quite rich with it, so we don't want that all just going as quick as we fill it in there. Okay, so we're all potted up now. Like I say, minus the little top dress and the gravel to hold things in place. But I think it looks quite nice there. So I think we'll have a little rough prune of it. We won't go too mad on him. Don't want to scare me, little brother. But I'm just going to really, I think if we just turn it around for a second, I think some of this on the real thick branch at the back, we'll just take a little bit off of this. Just to kind of slow it down. Like I say, I think in the end we'll try and push it back further and do away with some of this. That's a bit of a trident-y shape there, I think. Really, we'll take that bottom one out. Clean those odd little nubs off that have obviously died away. Get the angle on that one. So it looks a little bit less congested. And we'll wait till something else pops up there So that will just keep that in check, as it were. It's already quite chunky. Here's a bit of a pain because we've got a bit coming from the bottom there, but because this is evergreen, I'm sure as it filled out you could get around that. Maybe we'll have to just create some definition between the two of those, or maybe in the end he does away with this one because there's not much going on there really, is there? Obviously being mindful, we want to keep it into a triangle kind of shape. That's how this tree works really. This one as well. I'm just going to take a little bit off that for find a decent bud there. Yeah, that will do. Take one bit off that bottom so it just doesn't get too chunky. There's quite an old cut there that's been left. I think if we can try and clean it up a little bit. Yeah, that looks a lot better. So I might just see if I can get one more scoop out of that. There we go. Let's reduce that back a bit. I think that'll blend in a lot better than how it looked. I think we'll just reduce it back a little bit. I don't go too far again. Setting, but if we can get some back budding on this again this year. It responded really well to this treatment last year. I cut back all these odd little knobs that have been left where it's just been pruned with secateurs, so I can see a big benefit in actually having these bonsai tools after a long time, you know, as a kind of a novice-y kind of making do with what I've got. Can't really argue with spending a few quid on those really. That's kind of obvious. Let's knock it down to. I think in all fairness, so we could go through there and keep it under control for him, and then it wants to go further, I know, but I don't want to push it. So I think I've pruned about as much as I dare off of it without upsetting my little brother. That's a dead branch, so we can take that out of the equation. And we've really just tips and bits, and there's a few odd tridenty bits where I pruned it back last time for him, and now we can make a decision and take them bits out. So we cleaned it out a little bit. Everything there is going to remain that's there. I think I just want to adjust this slightly. I'm going to let these kind of grow out, but we'll adjust them a little bit just to get them, you know, sitting now to compensate where that other branch was missing. And maybe we'll just wire that cut one that I did earlier, where we've actually cut that odd bit off, the odd shape, and we'll try and correct that kind of branch a little bit and bring that one across to make a little bit of a pad there, and it has kind of defined those two branches, so whether he does get rid of that in the long run, and maybe one of these in the end, but we'll see what, you know, what else we get shoot out now we've pruned it back and got a bit more light into there. I think I'll go just for these two. They're not the thickest branches in the world. I've got a 1.6mm wire we can have a go on them with. So obviously using the 2-branch principle, as it were. I've anchored it round the back. I'm probably going to come under that one there. I think it's probably the best decision. And then this one, if I just hold that steady, just for demonstration. And that one I think I'll have to just come under there. I think that anchors them quite well. We're not really bending them from the inside of the branch closest to the trunk. It's more trying to correct them. You know, we've got some nice movement there. We just want to move the branch ends a little bit to fill that void where the other branch is now missing. Like I say, this branch particularly needs to thicken up a fair bit to be in keep with the rest of the tree now. So we can just sneak that around all these parts. It's a little bit awkward there. I want to protect all them new shoots. because they'll allow us to reduce the branch afterwards, quickly after we've bulked it up a bit. Look at that from the front there. I don't really want to interfere with the shape of it too much. Yeah, so it's kind of filling out that space now, which is good. So a little bit I'm unhappy with there. A few of those little bits there could do with coming down. And again, I think we can cut it back to there at some point, but I like to get a little bit more strength in it. I see there's still a few ugly little bits on there. See if we can just improve it off there. So I think you get the general gist of that one anyway. I'm going to pop a few more bits of wire on it, but I think with the length of the video already, I think we'll call it there. But I'll get a few more bits of wire on it and then we'll do a final kind of whiz round at the end. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that little video. We'll give you an update on this probably next year. These don't live at my house, so I don't see them every day. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you can take something from it. Like I say, this was just a kind of commercially grown garden centre bonsai, you know, 20, 25, 30 pounds or whatever. Yeah, so it goes to show with a little bit of time, you know, they can develop into quite nice things. So I'm quite fond of this tree, although it has its imperfections and problems. But hopefully, you know, we've hit a few of them today and we'll convince him how to get around them in the future. So yeah, if you've enjoyed it, if you could give it a thumbs up, that'd be great. And if you're new to the channel, if you could maybe consider hitting that subscribe button, that'd be handy for us as well. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.